Hello, this is Julie Johnson. Welcome back to part 4 in our study of creating visual impact in PowerPoint. Today we are going to focus on creating an engaging agenda slide, really using that agenda slide as a means of giving your audience a sense of progress and helping them focus as you move from topic to topic. Before we get started on creating the demonstration, I'd like you to look at this agenda slide, and I'd like you to imagine that you are in an audience where you are going to be listening to this presentation. Using a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being very engaged and excited, and 1 being not at all engaged and excited, I'd like you to rate how engaged this slide makes you feel. How excited are you to continue listening to this presentation based on just the visual of this slide? 1 is low, 10 is high. And I'd like you to type your rating into the chat box. Okay, great. We're seeing lots of 1s and 2s. A couple 3s and 4s coming in now. There's one person that has a 6. More 2s and 3s. So clearly not many people are indicating that this agenda slide has given them a high level of engagement or excitement about what is to follow. And while that may not necessarily be bad, you're not breaking any rules. This is a standard agenda slide that we see very frequently. It is a lost opportunity. And with an agenda slide, you have the opportunity to create visual interest, which causes more focus, attention, and engagement. And I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about. So if we just use the same text, but change the visuals, we can have a higher impact visual. We've used numbers, which send a message that this is a very understandable agenda. 3 items, 1, 2, 3. It's not going to overwhelm me as the audience member. And then we've added some animation that allows us to use this agenda slide for transitions. And it gives the audience a sense of progress. If we add an outline, we can use this as a transition slide into topic 1. After we're done with topic 1, we can animate that outline again, and it indicates that we're moving to topic 2. It also sends a message to me as an audience member that, wow, we're right in the middle. We only have 1 item to go after this. And when I get to topic 3, I can use this as a transition slide once again. And it tells me that we're focusing on a new topic and we're on the last topic in this agenda. So any questions about the concept of using your agenda slide, creating more visual impact and interest, and structuring it in a way that it creates a sense of progress and focus for your audience? And just conceptually, any questions or comments about that? Great, I'm seeing a few comments come in on the chat. You're interested in making that happen. Seems like a good idea. Okay, great. Thanks for the support, everybody. Let's go into a demonstration. We're going to spend the next minutes with me demonstrating to you how to make those changes in PowerPoint. As I go through this, I'm going to shift out of the slideshow view and into the normal view. We're going to be doing our work here on this slide. I'm going to be showing you how to transform it into what we just saw. And I'm going to assume that you all have a good basic usage skills in PowerPoint. If you have questions about what I'm doing, certainly feel free to type them into the chat or interrupt at any time. And if you really feel like these skills are ahead of where you are, you're not quite comfortable, we do have a PowerPoint Basics class as well that can make you more comfortable with some of these skills and commands. All right, so if we're going to transition this slide into something with more visual impact, the first thing I'm going to do to help me with that is I am going to insert a table. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and on that ribbon there is a table icon. If I select that drop-down arrow, you will see that it gives me some options for the size of my table. If I just click in this upper left corner and then I move my mouse over the various cells, you can see that the number of cells, number of boxes I highlight on the left turns into the size of the table on the right in the actual slide. Just demonstrating this so you can see how that works. And for this particular agenda, I want a table with 2 columns. You'll see why I have 2 columns later, and 3 rows. I'm choosing 3 rows because there are 3 items on my agenda. If my agenda had 4 items, I'd choose 4 rows, 5 items, 5 rows. I'll release my mouse button, and there I have my table. It populated in the top of my screen over my title, so I'm going to move that down, make it easier to work with. I'm leaving it aligned with this midpoint, center point. You can see those guides automatically appeared in my PowerPoint program. Makes it easy to keep it centered. And in order to work with this table a little bit easier as a design guide, I'm going to remove the color and I'm going to add some basic grid lines. So I'm going to select this table. I do that by clicking on the outside border. You can see it's selected. And I'm going to remove the color and add in grid lines. So I will move up here. Under Table Tools, there's the Design tab, which is highlighted. I will add the borders first by clicking the drop-down arrow. I'll click on All Borders. You can see I've added borders to the table. I'm now going to remove the fill color by clicking on the drop-down arrow of the shading button, and I will click No Fill. And from there, I want to go ahead and make this left column a little more narrow so that I could achieve the design effect I'm looking for. I will grab this center line and I will move it to the left, make it maybe 20% of the width of the table. Any questions about how I've gotten that table into the slide, how I've changed the color or the grid lines? We will move on in a moment. Just want to see if there's any questions. Okay, not seeing any questions. We'll go ahead and move on. The next step is to insert the agenda text into the rows of the table. I'll do that line by line. I'm going to highlight agenda text from row 1. And it's highlighted. I will right click and I will say copy. I will move into the first row, and that's the top row, but the larger right column. And I will paste. But for pasting, I can use the destination theme, or I can use the source formatting. And I like the look of that source formatting, so I'm going to click Use Source Formatting. I just noticed that I missed a question mark on the end. I will add that question mark here. All right, do the same thing for row 2, copy, paste. On my keyboard, I'll add the question mark. Seems like I'm having trouble picking up those question marks easily. Copy row 3 and paste that. And add the question mark. Great. So now I have the agenda items in the table. I can now eliminate this text box altogether. So I'll highlight that and click delete. I will highlight the empty box now and click delete again, and I've eliminated that text box. I've got the agenda items in the table. I now am going to make sure that the table is large enough to allow me to increase the size of the font and increase the visual impact. I want this slide to be impressive, so I need to make everything bigger. I'm going to start by grabbing the bottom line of this table and dragging it straight down, making the table longer. And when I do this, what you can notice is that the rows are not evenly distributed. This bottom row is far too large, and these upper 2 rows are their original size. So how can I even those out? The way I do that is I'm going to highlight all 3 rows and I'll highlight them by hovering at the left, clicking. I've got all the rows highlighted. And I can go to the Layout tab and select the Distribute Rows Evenly button. And that way it has distributed the rows so that they are all evenly sized in my table. When I look at that, it becomes clear that the text is near the top of each box, and it would be much easier, it will allow me to have a much more even and visually appealing look if I can get that centered within each box. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight each of these three boxes by highlighting that whole column. I'm going to go to the Home tab, and I will click the drop-down arrow by the Align Text tool, and by clicking Middle, that allows me to align the text in the middle of each table cell. So I've got the text, and I've got it evenly spaced in the center of my screen. Now it's time to add those large orange circles that had the numbers for the agenda items. To add the numbers, we are going to draw a circle shape. Again, go to the Home, make sure you've got your Home tab highlighted, and you will see drawing tools and options here on the ribbon toward the right half of the screen. And I will select the oval tool, and I will draw a circle right here in the center of this particular square. I can adjust it so that it is even in the center of that square of the table, again using that table as a graphical guide. And I'm going to change the color. I want some contrast. Remember, we're going for visual interest, so it defaulted to the gray fill. I want it to be a brighter orange fill. So I'm going to change the color. I'm going to keep that circle, I'm going to keep that shape highlighted or selected, and I will then move to the Shape Fill button, click the down arrow, and select the orange color. I can see that there is a gray outline. You may want to keep a contrasting outline for this particular visual effect. I prefer not to have the contrasting outline, so I will click the down arrow by Shape Outline and click on No Outline, and I have removed that outline. The last piece to add to create the number in the circle is to insert a text box. I will click on the text box tool, click in the center of the circle, and my mouse has now turned into a cursor because it is the text box. And using my keyboard, I'll type the number 1. That is what I want, but I want it to be bigger. So I will highlight it, move up here to the bold tool. I will bold it, and I will use the increase font size tool, and I will click on it until I achieve the size of the number that looks right to me. So there I have a large number 1 inside the circle. That is the shape that I am going for. I need that to be replicated 2 more times so I can get number 2 and number 3. So I will highlight this, right click, and click, highlight this, right click, click copy, go down, click paste, and I will click paste 1 more time. There are 2 copies of that circle. I will drag them down into position. And I will click next to the number, and I will update the number on my keyboard. So I have number 2 and number 3. They look somewhat aligned, but I really don't know if these circles are aligned vertically. So I'm going to use my Shift key to select all of them. And I will go to the Format tool and over here to the Align button, click the drop-down arrow, and I'm going to have them aligned to the left. And now they are all aligned vertically, one on top of the other. Okay, so I've got the numbers and the shapes that I am interested in having for the look of this agenda slide. Now I want to make sure that the text has the impact that that is creating visual interest and makes it easy to read and makes it impressive. This text looks a little bit small. I'm going to highlight the column that has the text in it. I'm going to increase the size just by using my increase font size button. And I want to keep all the text on one line, so I will move back down to 24. That looks pretty good, and now I'm going to eliminate the grid lines on the table. One more time, selecting that whole table. I will go to Design, drop down arrow on Borders, and say No Borders. And there I have the agenda with the text and the large orange circles creating impact and visual interest. Now, let's go ahead and make sure that we add an outline that allows you to help your audience focus and create a sense of progress. Before I do that, any questions about what you've seen? Okay. So to add the outline, I am going to, again, make sure my Home tab is highlighted, and I will select the rectangle with rounded corners. You could select other shapes, the oval or the squared corner rectangle. I happen to like this one, so I will select that tool, and I will draw a rectangle shape that that encompasses the first item on the agenda, but I'm going to make sure it's long enough that I can use this same shape to outline every item on the agenda on future slides. You can see that this defaulted to a solid fill, so once again I'm going to eliminate the fill, and I'm going to make the outline more noticeable by changing it to this blue color. And I'm going to make it more noticeable again by adding some weight to it. Make it a 3-point weight to align. And I'm going to make it a little bit more noticeable again by adding a shape effect called glow. You can see when I hover over glow, it gives me a variety of options in terms of size and color. I will select this 11-point glow in the blue-gray color. So you can see that that will help the audience focus on agenda item 1 when I'm ready to move into that agenda item. And I want to animate that because when I talk about the agenda, I do not want that outline on the screen. But then when I move into the agenda item 1, I want that to appear. So I'm going to animate that. To animate that outline, I will click the Animations tab, and I'm going to click Appear, and that just will make this appear when I click my mouse. If you prefer different effects, you can choose random bars or the wheel or a split. You can experiment with those to see what that is like. I'm going to keep it pretty simple and just say appear. I always like to test the animation, see what it's actually going to look like by going up to slideshow and saying, show me the presentation from the current slide. So this is the presentation view. And if I click my forward arrow, it adds the focus outline. And that's exactly what I want. So I'll press my escape button to go back to the normal view. And the next thing we want to do is we want to convert this slide into, we've got it now using it as the agenda, and it gives us focus to transition into topic number 1. Let's copy it, paste it, and let's create a transition slide that allows us to move into topic number 2. To do that, I will select the outline, and using my down arrow, I'll move it down to surround topic number 2. And we can do that one more time. Copy, paste, select the outline, use my down arrow to move it down to surround topic number 3. And what I have here now is my agenda slide and a transition slide for topic 1, a transition slide for topic 2, and a transition slide for topic 3. Let's just see what that looks like. So let's look at slideshow view from the current slide. We can talk about the agenda, topic 1. When we're done, we'll say we're ready to introduce topic 2. When we're done with that topic, we can say we're ready to introduce topic 3. And we have this nice visual reminder to the audience about our organization structure, and it gives them a sense of progress of moving through the topics. What questions do you have? All right, thank you very much.